Hello, powerful. It's Lisa, your generative power coach. Today, I want to ask how your power is feeling. Is it up or is it down or is it neutral? What are you thinking? What do you think about that? And a difference or what could make a difference? What I'm going to talk about is the rules that you grew up with, the rules that you picked up along the way. These rules create norms that we live within every day of our lives. And so I want to ask you to challenge your norms or the rules and ask yourself, how does each rule serve you today or hold you back? Is this a norm that serves me today or does it hold me back, and can I change it? All right, and let me give you some examples because you might be thinking, Lisa, what the heck are you talking about? Norms? Well, this is an exercise actually that's really fun to do with a group of people to talk about the rules. If you're going to be around friends, it's kind of a fun thing to talk about the rules that you grew up with and the ones that you stick to even today. Here's an example. This may or may not apply to you. You might hear somebody say, I always vote Republican. Why? Well, my father did and his father did. Well, that's an interesting rule. Do you still have to go along with that? And what does that do to you to always vote Republican? Maybe there's something from a financial perspective. Maybe you were taught that you should not invest in risky assets or don't risk your finances. And that can mean something different to everybody. For some people, it might mean you don't invest in cryptocurrency. For some people, it might mean you don't buy individual stocks. For some people, it might mean you don't invest in startup companies because those are extremely risky. And a lot of people used to believe that the banks were risky, and I think they used to be more risky, but so they didn't put their money in a bank. So that's a rule and a norm that a lot of people grew up with. But what are your norms and rules around money? Another one related to money is, well, it's related to money and a work ethic, which is I don't hire anyone to clean for me because I can do it myself and that's a waste of money. I gotta tell you, I have a cleaning lady who comes every other week. I trust her because she's worked with me for years, and I don't know what I would do without her. It's a great investment in my money because for the amount of money that I pay her, I gain a lot of freedom in my life. Freedom that I don't have to do the work to clean my home. Freedom that I don't have to think constantly about, like, oh, when am I going to dust? When am I going to clean the bathtub or the shower? When am I going to do XYZ? When am I going to clean the kitchen? She does a fantastic job and I know when it's going to get done. So every time it gets close to the day that she's going to show up and the kitchen is looking a little bit like a wreck, and I know she's going to come and set everything straight. So that's kind of an interesting one too, because I know a lot of people that could easily afford to have someone come help them, and they just say, well, I can do it myself and I don't want to spend my money that way. So that's kind of an interesting rule. You might have some rules around sex, actually, related to who you are allowed to have sex with and how. And that's something to consider. Does that rule still serve you? And if you have a partner, does it serve them? And are you both in agreement with that rule? Another interesting rule that, if you know me well, you know that I break all the time, which is I don't travel alone. Women shouldn't travel alone. Oh my gosh, I travel alone all the time. I spent September 2024 in Scotland. I did a home exchange and I just drove all over the country on the other side of the road. So that was a huge adventure. But there are a lot of people who feel like they shouldn't travel alone, that people will look at them funny, that they won't know what to do in a restaurant, that they'll be a target for people who have bad intent. And you could be a target of someone who has bad intent, but that can happen to you anywhere, right? So I think it's a matter of getting used to doing. Related to that, sometimes people will say, I don't go out to dinner alone, or I won't go to a movie alone. I'll feel like a loser just sitting there by myself. Well, I got to tell you, one of the greatest things to do is if there's a movie that you really want to see, you go to a matinee or a show at 2 p.m. Most times the theater will be empty and you can just sit there and have a private showing, and it's fabulous. So treat yourself. So that's another one. What sort of self-care, I'll use that in a really broad category, right? What sort of self-care have you thought about doing, but you're not doing for yourself? Maybe you've been thinking about getting a facial. Maybe you want to do a breathwork class. Maybe you want to do a yoga class. Maybe you just want to go out with some friends on a Friday night as opposed to being with your partner. Maybe you want to just spend a night alone or pick up a new hobby. What's holding you back from doing that? Are there rules that you picked up along the way that made you think that you're not allowed to do that? So, bottom line, question everything you do because you might be limiting your power out of habit. It's habit in your thinking because you were told somewhere along the line, or you picked up this idea somewhere along the line that you needed to do something a certain way, and others around you needed to do something a certain way too. And you can decide whether or not that's true for you today. And you can decide if that's holding you back. The more you are aware of your behaviors and whether or not they serve you and make you more powerful or diminish your power, the more powerful you'll feel overall. All right. So, what are your norms? What are your rules? If it's time to make some new rules for yourself that increase your power, go do that. That'll make me so proud. Stay powerful.
Lesson learned there, and we can apply that to what we already know